Welcome to Trust and Obey with Chuck Frank. This is a Saturday G Drop entitled, Who Gives a Damn? But we're going to look at giving today, and actually, a lot of people give a damn. A lot of people in the Bible, God in particular, a lot of believers, a lot of people in government, a lot of people who work for NGOs. The world needs charitable giving. Let's drill down into it. We'll start with the scripture. We're going to read 2 Corinthians chapter 8, 7 lines, 1 through 7. Excel in giving. Moreover, brethren, we make known to you the grace of God bestowed on the churches in Macedonia, that in a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded in the riches of their liberality. For I bear witness that according to their ability, yes, and beyond their ability, they were freely willing, imploring us with much urgency that we would receive the gift and the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. And not only as we had hoped, but they first gave themselves to the Lord and then to us by the will of God. So we urged Titus that as he had begun, so he would also complete this grace in you as well. But as you abound in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in all diligence, and in your love for us, see that you abound in this grace also. So, Paul is trying to manage all these churches he's planting all over Asia Minor, and he's addressing the fact that he's got a church in Corinth, which was this massive port city, and a very wealthy place, and it is the exact opposite of this little church in Macedonia. And Macedonia had been through 3 civil wars. The society there was in extreme poverty and persecution because certain Jews from the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem were following Paul, and every place he tried to plant a church, they would try to disrupt with what the legacy media would call misinformation to the Gentiles, basically saying Paul's a threat to you guys. He's trying to take away your livelihood by only preaching that there is only one God. So he gets them all riled up and he makes it difficult for these churches. So this church in Macedonia is not only incredibly poor and impoverished, but they're persecuted also by the Gentiles. And so Paul is looking and saying, hey, church in Corinth, pay attention. These folks have a small fraction of what you have. And yet they're making a gift to the church in Jerusalem and a gift to us, meaning himself and the people who are traveling with him to try to spread the word. And he's trying to stop them from giving because they're giving too much. And they're saying to him, hey, God is the one who's telling us how much to give. And God is the one in charge of this whole thing. And we are overjoyed to be helping you. Now, that's the spirit. What about giving worldwide right now? What country gives the most? Well, by far, it's the USA. We're the most generous, and within our ranks, the people who give the most are believers. They give 400 times more than non-believers. So, of these groups by political party, the Dems give the least. It's a shocker, isn't it? I'm shocked. And the Republicans give the most. And the independents give a little bit more than the Dems. So it explains a lot. But the recipients of a lot of this giving are NGOs, non-governmental organizations. And I think we have to look at the NGOs because we want our gift to be doing God's work. And the NGOs have sold themselves out to Satan, at least a number of them, and I'm talking hundreds of them. But I was looking at an article by the Free Press, and it was just amazing that, let's take an NGO like Catholic Charities. They have made $1.4 billion on this opening of the southern border and enticing all of these folks from Central America to invade the border. And now, because there's an election, they're actually flying them from Central America and Mexico directly to cities in the United States. So it looks like the numbers are decreasing. So it is all a gigantic and evil scam to destroy our country. And here's Catholic Charities at the top of the list. So I just want to go through some of what's been going on. And this is mostly headed up by Health and Human Services. And they make sure that specific entities have steady contracts, and they'll also send it off through the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and that's through the Administration of Children and Families. So here's some numbers to take a look at. Church World Services, $20.5 million. Jewish Family Services, $22 million. This is just to bring immigrants up from Central America to our country. Border Servant Corps, $15.1 billion. Lutheran Immigrant and Refugee Service, $182.6 million. And here's an interesting triad. Global Refuge, Southwest Key Programs, and Endeavors, Inc. Global Refuge, they made almost $600 million in 2019 and even more now. Southwest Key Programs had made $2 billion by the year 2022. And Endeavors is racking it up. And all the CEOs of these three companies, in fact, Southwest Key Programs, their CEO makes $1 million a year. And the other CEOs, one makes $600K and the other makes over $500K. And the previous CEO of Southwest Key Programs paid himself $3.5 million a year. So I don't think this is what Paul had in mind when he was writing chapter 8 in 2 Corinthians. And I don't think it's what any of us have in mind when we are taxed by our government and then this money is handed out through our government to NGOs with very religious-sounding names, some more secular than others, but they are all ripping us off and doing something to destroy our country, using our money to destroy our country. That could not be further from the concept of giving. So let's look a little closer at what God had in mind. The reason that Paul is writing this letter about the Macedonian church is because he's preaching that God is the source of all our income, all our opportunity, all of our resource. This is a nice way of saying everything you have is his. Let me say it again. Everything you have is his. You wouldn't have any of it were it not for him. And he can take it away in a second. So if you can't feel that, keep coming. Hi, my name is Larry, and I'm a recovering greedy bastard. Hi, Larry. We're all Larry, right? We believe the money is God's until we get our hands on it. Then all of a sudden, I have a lot of needs. I don't know if I can give what I intended to give. Here's the deal. You can daily thank God for all he has given you and ask him to help you to manage it. Ask him to help you to increase it. Ask him to help you to share it. And since it's all his anyway, stop worrying about it. He is ultimately in charge of it. Or, alternatively, you can worship it, you can cling to it, you can be anxious about it, you can repeatedly count it, and you can make yourself miserable over it. But think for a second. How many joyful, rich people do you know? So what does that tell you? Earning and giving should bring all of us joy. If it doesn't, ask God why. He'll show you. But be careful about your giving. And let's look at one line in the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 38. Jesus is saying, give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. Be joyful in your giving. It's God's anyway, and it makes him happy when you do it with the right spirit. But don't cast your pearls before swine. Be generous, but verify. And then trust and obey, baby. Keep it kiss simple. God bless you.